So we spend a lot of time dreaming about a world where and kind of imagining the art of the possible as we consider this brand new technology and spectrum that Verizon is leading and is on the cutting edge in terms of kind of those new innovations.
So Elise Neel, amazing to have you on the show. I'm just so grateful anytime a V-teamer joins me for Winning Wednesday. So thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. It's a great way to start my Wednesday.
And I love to open these with a personal professional check-in, which gives you a chance to share something that the audience might not know about you.
Perhaps one of the more surprising things about Elise Neel is that before I became a V-teamer and before I entered the corporate world, I was a professional tap dancer for many, many years. I still dance. I have a dance studio just kind of attached to my house. And I am a deep lover of music. And it is a big way that I decompress, de-stress, tap into my creativity and get the old body moving. And that's a big part of my creative spirit.
And it just reminds me of you on your treadmill, like constantly in motion.
It's so true. And I think what I have learned in the pandemic is you think better, you're more creative, you maintain your energy more when you move a little bit, and you don't have to like run on a treadmill or like bike all the time, but just a little bit of movement helps to keep the juices going. So it's good. And let's just be real. I don't know about you, but I definitely contributed to my own personal COVID-19. And so we're trying to get it more to like a COVID-2, a COVID-3. And so we got to work that back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you. I just finished my MBA. So now I'm like, okay, cool. I can focus on exercise and nutrition because that took up all my extra time. So I feel you. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your world within Verizon. And I know you just touched on the fact that obviously you haven't been here forever, but you're part of a very forward-thinking team. NBI, I'm not even sure what that stands for, but I wanted to know from your perspective as a VP, what is it like leading incubation in that side of the business?
So I have the privilege of running new business incubation for Verizon, which really serves to build the future software businesses that will kind of harness the future of 5G and mobile edge compute. And so really, if I pare this down into what does this mean, we are a group of individuals that look a lot like product and product development and engineering, kind of working in frontier technology. And so everything from aerial and terrestrial robotics to location technology to distributed energy resources and new elements around adaptive and additive manufacturing. Kind of all of those components are a part of the businesses and the strategies that we're building for the future. It is super exciting. We're really just a bunch of explorers kind of coming together to think about the future. Our kind of timeline and horizon is around 3 to 10 years. So we spend a lot of time dreaming about a world where and kind of imagining the art of the possible as we consider this brand new technology and spectrum that Verizon is leading and is on the cutting edge in terms of kind of those new innovations. From a leadership perspective, I would share that there are a couple different pieces that create uniqueness in this role. One part is the fact that we have the blessing of being a part of a big company, a Fortune 15 like Verizon. And so when you think about the power, the distribution, the resource that we have an opportunity to test and to approach the market differently than most other startups. But that also is matched with challenges of running corporate innovation programs as we think about big things like bureaucracy or talent components or recruiting and the ways that we incent our employees and our engineers in order to do the seemingly impossible. And so kind of creating this balance of how do we access all of the power and the might and the opportunity that a company like Verizon can bring on the forefront of technology, and also honor this very entrepreneurial spirit that we have as we've kind of hired and built portfolios of companies that really are on that cutting edge. And that balance is something that I think we've struck specifically within new business incubation. It's why we sit separate from many of the other business groups. The word that I would use to describe our culture and my everyday life as a leader is like exhilarating. And exhilarating to me is that roller coaster ride where you've waited in line for like 2 hours in the sun. So there's waiting, there's like anticipation. You strap in, right? You get the like over the head harness, you know, and they're like, please keep your hands and arms like inside the vehicle at all times. And there's that. It's like, you better buckle in for a ride. Right. It's that dang click, click, click as you ascend. And you're like both like, this is going to be amazing. And I think I'm going to throw up. Like this anxiety plus excitement all mixed together. And then there's the whoosh. There's the feeling of when you win. There's when you get it right. But it's also the twists and the turns and the corkscrews and the upside downs. And this exhilarating feeling is a part of every day is unique. You got to buckle in because it is a wild ride and it isn't for the faint of heart either. So that's a little bit about my daily life in new business incubation.
And your charisma for it and your passion is so apparent, which I think is amazing. Obviously, I know you through WAVE, which is our women's employee resource group at Verizon. And it's phenomenal, the work that you've been able to do there and the time and attention that you've been able to spend there, in addition to what you just described, which is your day job. So where do you find the time to co-lead WAVE? And what is the value of ERGs like WAVE at Verizon?
Years and years ago, someone told me that you will know what is really important to you by the way that you spend your time. So what I will share with you is that you don't really find the time for these extracurricular societal impacts. You just decide that it is part of the time that you need to spend. And so a lot of it is just being intentional in planning. There's a lot of late nights, both matched with my participation and assistance in WAVE, as well as, frankly, my day job. And so kind of balancing those components. I'm also a mother of 3, 5, 10, and almost 13. Oh my gosh. And I'm a wife, and tending to all of these gardens kind of in my life requires intentionality. You got to plan it and you got to know that it's important to you. But the first step, maybe in some of the most valuable exercises I've done, is kind of going back through my calendar over the last 30 days and just methodically articulating my time into boxes. How did I actually spend my time? And then sitting with that to say, am I comfortable? Is this the right mix, or do I need to make some changes? And from there, you now have some data and you can plan your time accordingly. From a time perspective, I think it's all about how you spend your time tells you where your value is. And so if you want to change that, you got to put some energy toward it. When I think about the work that we're doing inside of WAVE, it is a phenomenal body of individuals. I think we have over 13,000 members that are represented in over 32 countries. This is not a small club. This is a meaningful force, I think, that Verizon has helped us to kind of cultivate over the years. When I think about the value that we bring to our members and to society, we talk a lot about intersectionality, which means that people can identify with a number of different labels or identities kind of through life, because we are really prismed, generally speaking, as individuals. We are not just one thing. And particularly when you think of something as women specifically, we are not just women. We are also, well, I talked about, for me, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a dancer, I'm a lover of music, I'm an extrovert, I am, a follower of Christ, I am all of these things. And I think when we think about the value that we bring, ERGs represent that diversity. It is a part of the arts and technology and the humanities and societal impact coming together. We are both advancing the skill sets of our members to bring them towards kind of new business skills that they can use to advance their career. And we are also pouring into the hearts and minds and lives of the future generation equally at the same time. We're also advancing and advocating for women in the workplace and kind of what that looks like. And we are also supporting caregivers and mothers and caretakers, through a really difficult season of life as we've all kind of navigated COVID. I think that's where the value is that we're just not one thing. We're many things, and to many people.
Too many times the human falls by the wayside, and then you lose that morale at work, and that can be detrimental to the business.
Yeah, it's so true. I love how you just frame that, because the reality is that we are people and we all do have lives outside of work. And so how can you more wholly, care for all that is coming so that you receive kind of that big benefit? I think one of the most beautiful parts about COVID is that we had the window into people's world and into their homes so that we could kind of see a little bit more of those people, for those that at least were willing to share.
For me personally, I never liked to share my personal life with my colleagues, and COVID really shook that up because I was going crazy living alone. And to your point about being an extrovert, I was like, how do I get that energy and bring it into my life and also still give back? And this podcast really created an outlet for me to achieve those two goals. And so within Verizon, or even outside the organization, what would you say to aspiring leaders that are looking to set themselves apart and advance within their career, where it's easy to kind of get lost? Is advancing within a large organization really worth it?
I think one decides, am I going to be a leader or am I going to follow? And I also think too, they decide, well, in what capacities do I want to lead? Because I think in many instances, I lead the majority of my life, but I also follow quite a bit in certain circles, and understanding my role and when I am well positioned to lead versus when I need to frankly zip my lip. I firmly believe that I was created on purpose for a purpose. And in that, when I think about the skills that I've been given and how I've honed them over time, that gives me my own unique value proposition. I have something unique and differentiated to offer. I have a personal brand, I have my own style, and using that and understanding what that is first, and then how to apply that for corporate or business benefit, whether that be team building or culture building or marketing or communications or new business building or P&L management. It could really be anything. The first piece is you got to know thyself. You got to know what you're the best at. Like Katrina, you are an individual who, was created with a very specific skill set. So figure out what that is and bring that to work, because the moment that we start looking like everybody else or acting like everybody else, it dulls your value. And then is it worth it? I don't know. I think that's up to the person. There are some days, very few, I have a rough day and I'm just like, why am I working so hard? Is this worth it? And it's usually after 12-hour days consistently and like my kid's got an ear infection, it's usually a couple things kind of coming in at the same time where you're just weary. And I think paying attention to how that feels and then addressing that and saying, all right, I need some soul care. I need a vacation day. I need a PTO. I need to clear my afternoon so I can work through my email. I need whatever, versus continuing to push through is important. But it's only worth it if you are intentionally trying to press into something.
It also makes me think too, how many times people take their perception and apply it to us and say, this is where you belong, because they have one angle of you as a human. And they're like, oh, you would fit perfect here, but that might not actually be aligned with where you want to go. And if you're not intentional and you don't plan out your life, that's when you go with the current and you wind up wherever it's taking you, for better or for worse at that point.
Someone is seeing one side of you and maybe doesn't understand the other side. But if you don't understand it either, you don't have enough information to actively push back or the confidence to do that, to say, hey, you think I'm supposed to be in finance because I'm great at math, but like, I actually really want to be in engineering. And they're like, wait, what? You do? Okay, well, how do I align that? I mean, every great manager just wants to tee up their team for success. So that's a great comment.
So I like to end my show, Winning Wednesday, with your favorite way to win Wednesday. So what would that be?
Oh, my favorite Wednesday activity is horse riding. So both of my daughters ride horses. They are in the jumper thing for any equine lovers out there. And so on Wednesdays, I have an opportunity to watch my girls ride, and they are fearless and amazing. And to just see the combination of rider and horse, it is very different than any sport I've ever kind of witnessed and experienced. But after the horse is good and tired, then mom gets on. And I have an opportunity to walk, trot, and canter and just kind of play around with this totally majestic, most beautiful horse that we're incredibly blessed to have. And there's something that happens when I'm riding this animal. There is this stress relief. There is the energy that is all balled up from my cuckoo days somehow pass through the animal, and he exhales. And every now and then he will let out the biggest sighs. He doesn't sigh like this with anybody else, but when I get on him, he's either like, wow, she's heavier than the 12-year-old, or I think it's this way of processing of like, we are there to kind of come down and do a midweek check. Yeah. It has become incredibly therapeutic, and it has allowed me to like win at the end of Wednesday and then like power through the Thursday, Friday, and frankly, sometimes through the weekend. It's been delightful. Thanks for having me on your podcast and allowing me to share a little bit about my heart. I appreciate the invitation.
Definitely, Elise. Thanks for being on.